will be monitoring that as we go. As I mentioned, we are pleased to have today Andrew Strong and Juliana Bernal from Correlation One. And their goal as an organization is to create equal access to the data-driven jobs of tomorrow. And there's so many fabulous organizations out there doing such great work. And so we're pleased to have Andrew and Juliana with us today. So Andrew, it's yours.
Thanks so much, Labar. And thanks for having us today. My name is Andrew Strong. I manage the operations team at Correlation One. I'll share a little bit of background on who we are at Correlation One and the type of work we do. And then I'll dive in a little bit into one of the programs that we're running that we thought may be a good fit for all of you. So first, Correlation One, we're an education technology startup. We've been in operations for about 6 years. And what we do is we develop and manage pathway programs for individuals to learn kind of applied skills on technology and data analytics, and then help them get placed with companies who are hiring for those roles. And so we run programs in things like data analytics and cybersecurity, as well as specialized programs in unique skills like the one I'm going to talk about today, which is a software certification called Anaplan. We often partner with universities like Metro State, where we offer our programs to students from our partner universities. And what makes our programs a little bit unique is that all of our programs are completely free for all of the students and professionals who participate in them. There's no tuition payment involved. The programs are financially supported by the companies that recruit out of them. And so again, the whole idea is creating a pathway program, right, for individuals to access kind of unique jobs in technology. And we have a specific intention around focusing on kind of underrepresented communities in technology and analytics. So that's a little bit about us and how we operate. Now, I have a short presentation which I'll share today to walk through one of the programs that we're running called Anaplan for All. I'll spend about 10 to 15 minutes walking through this and how it works, and then be happy to answer any questions from folks on the call today. So first, what is Anaplan? So Anaplan is a software company that I'm sure most of you have never heard of, which is completely okay. But Anaplan is a technology software company that has a business enterprise software for what is called connected planning. And connected planning basically means if you're at a large organization like a Coca-Cola, for example, and you have a finance department and a sales department and a supply chain department and a distribution department, those departments ideally need to work together when they're planning for what's going to happen in the next quarter, what's going to happen in the next year. Historically, how that would work is the finance team might put together their projections in an Excel file. They would then pass it off to the sales team or to the supply chain team, and then the supply chain team would look at what the finance team was projecting. They would update their projections based on that. They'd pass it back to someone else. The problem with that structure, and that's kind of the current structure for most large companies, the problem with that structure is that the moment an Excel file leaves the outbox of the finance team's email, it's immediately out of date. And any updates that the finance team has after that, they'll have to go chase the other groups and say, hey, we actually updated our forecast for this quarter. Please update all of your files as well, right? You can only imagine how messy that can get at really large companies with all sorts of different departments that need to work together. So what Anaplan has done is they've developed a software technology for what's called connected planning. And so this allows companies to basically have shared models across different departments at scale. And so, think of it almost like the same way you can collaborate with other people on like a Google Sheet, right? And a Google Sheet is, a small scale version and, has limited bells and whistles. And if you go over, a couple thousand rows, it starts to get really difficult. But think of it like that sort of functionality where you can collaborate with other departments. You can have all sorts of different functionality for forecasting and planning, but at a much larger scale than what Google Sheets could offer, as an example. So that's basically how it works. And again, they don't have a large consumer-facing brand because their product is an enterprise software product. However, within the enterprise software world, they're growing extremely fast and are one of kind of the hottest technology companies in the Bay Area right now. And so Why do customers use Anaplan? So exactly as I just described, right? When companies use a connected planning tool like Anaplan, their operational efficiency can just improve drastically. And so here's an example. Sonos is one of their customers. Sonos used to have 2 weeks to execute demand changes, right? Our customers are placing new orders. We need to connect it with the supply chain team. That used to take 2 weeks from the demand signal to make its way to how the manufacturing team was producing products. Now it takes 1 day. And there's countless other examples of companies like this. You can see on the right here, one of this is Anaplan's CEO speaking on CNBC, but their lofty mission is to kill off Excel use within the enterprise, which, if you've ever worked in a corporate strategy role, you can realize how big of a goal that is, right? Every company around the world uses Excel. And Anaplan also has customers of every different type. They have customers in technology and consumer products, airlines, finance firms, consulting firms. And so they have grown really, really quickly, which is really, really exciting. The challenge for Anaplan and why we've developed this program is because even though they've grown incredibly fast, they have struggled to keep pace in terms of people that know their software, right? And you can imagine, I'm Coca-Cola. I've just signed a deal with Anaplan. I'm paying millions of dollars to use their software and deploy it across my organization. I download it and no one on my team knows how to use it, right? And similar to how in the 80s when companies started using Excel, they needed people that knew how to use Excel, knew how to do things like VLOOKUPs and macros and all the things that you might do to build models in Excel. Think of Anaplan as almost like a step beyond that, right? It's a little bit more of a complicated technology to learn. And so it's a technology that requires certification, right? It's almost like, many of you may be familiar with Salesforce. Salesforce is a good example of enterprise technology that's now widely adopted across different industries. And Salesforce has a whole career path around being a Salesforce administrator or a Salesforce developer or kind of a certified professional in this specific software so that you can then go work at companies that are using that software. So that's the challenge that Anaplan has, is they've got lots of customers that want to use their software but aren't getting enough out of it because they don't have professionals that are certified as Anaplan model builders. Now, we got connected with Anaplan about 1.5 years ago at Correlation One, and we explained to them kind of the different types of pathway programs that we ran. And they said, this is a perfect fit for us. We need a strategic way to bring kind of new talent into our ecosystem. And we love the social impact mission of what Correlation One is doing. Let's set up a program together that trains individuals to become certified Anaplan model builders with an intentional focus on kind of underrepresented minority communities. And so that's a little bit about how our program works. Here, again, is a quote from Anaplan's CEO, Frank Calderoni, where he says that it's not just education, but it's really education and job placement, right? And that's kind of the big part of our program is, yes, we train people to be certified in this skill, but we also work directly with the hiring partners to help the candidates from our programs get placed in jobs within the Anaplan ecosystem. So that's a little bit of a background. From here, I'll just explain how the program works and then just some examples of success so far. So the program, it's a 12-week program specifically for individuals from underrepresented communities. And how we've defined that so far, our first cohorts were focused kind of exclusively on Black and Hispanic communities. We're now expanding that to include, like first generation Americans, other kind of underrepresented communities from different geographies. But the intention is really, providing pathways for individuals who may not have had kind of the traditional path, so to speak, of some others. Classes are virtual. So classes take place on Saturdays. It's about a 4-hour class day on Saturdays. We have live instructors who lead courses in Anaplan. And then we have about 15 to 20 hours a week of kind of individual work, right? This is getting through the certification, working with teaching assistants, working with project teams, things like that. We've run 2 cohorts already. We graduated about 100 people from the programs in 2021. We've just launched a new cohort in 2022, and we're planning on launching several other later this year. But just to provide an illustration of some of the outcomes of this program. So of the graduates of our program, 75% have already gotten jobs in the Anaplan ecosystem. And the types of jobs they get are usually really high quality jobs. So you can see some of the names here. These are large consulting firms like Ernst & Young, Deloitte, Accenture, Slalom, some more boutique consulting firms that work in the Anaplan space like Bualta, Spalding Ridge, and Curis. And then some logos here that are not presented, but we've also helped place companies like Verizon, companies like Johnson & Johnson, Goldman Sachs. So big flagship Fortune 500 companies that are using Anaplan for their corporate strategy teams and hiring professionals from our program into their corporate finance department or to their workforce planning department or to kind of other corporate strategy departments. A couple examples on the right here. So Shema, graduate from our program, like many of you had probably never heard of Anaplan, when the program started. At the end of the program, she got 4 job offers of over $100,000. And so I share that to say that because this is such a tight talent market and kind of a unique talent market of Anaplan certified professionals, there's a huge supply demand imbalance here where people that are certified in the skill are, in command of very large salaries coming out, even in entry-level roles. The average starting salary of graduates of our program is over $100,000. And so, it's the type of thing where it's kind of hidden in plain sight, so to speak. The last slide I have, and then I would like to open it up for questions, is just a little bit of background on who is a good fit for this program. And at a high level, there's no formal prerequisites for the program, right? We've had people come from a variety of backgrounds. Natalie, as an example here, Natalie ran a fitness studio for 10 years before joining this program. She had done a little bit of online coding work and, had some technical chops coming into the program, but, she used this as a career pivot from working in the fitness industry to working at, Ernst & Young. But generally, people that have experience in things like corporate finance or supply chain or data analytics or have some familiarity with enterprise technology, anyone with that background will be a great fit for this program, because often the type of work that people do with Anaplan is in a functional role in a corporate strategy setting. So it might be building a model for the corporate finance team to connect with the supply chain team, as an example, or for the HR team to connect with the sales performance management team, as an example. And so some corporate strategy experience is definitely relevant, but it's not a requirement to join the program. And then the last piece I'll share, we have a website, which I hopefully can pull up. Yeah, and I've linked it here, and I'll give Labar the details so he can send it out to all of you. But there's a link to kind of submit your information to early apply for the next cohort. So you can do that now. We'll be opening up the formal application, in the next month or so. But if you want to kind of get in early and kind of be on the list for when the next cohort is formally announced, you can do so just through this website, correlation1.com/Anaplan for all. So that's a little bit about the program and how it works. Now from here, I would love to open it up for questions and happy to answer any questions that are top of mind for anyone.
Andrew, does somebody want to jump in?
Well, I just wanted to ask a question on the selection process. Does everybody that apply gets in, or is there I know like your last slide said, there's no prerequisite for, for candidates that get in. So just wanted to get clarification on that.
Yeah, good question. So it is a selective process. It is not a just sign up and get in. There's a lot of resources from our side in terms of teaching assistants and career coaches and things like that. Our most recent program, we had about 8,000 applicants, and we invited about 500 students and professionals to participate. And so, things that we look for in the admissions process are, background in education that relates to business or, finance or, any of the things that I mentioned earlier. Data analytics is a relevant skill set as well. We also have an entry assessment that we administer to all of the applicants, which will kind of test basic analytics and kind of business fundamental skills. And then lastly, we kind of specifically prioritize individuals coming from underrepresented communities. And so that kind of helps us target folks as well.
So I was trying to use my data analytics skills to have 1 out of 16 got in. And I think I came up with 6%, or is that about right?
Yeah, it's been selective for sure. And one thing that we've been trying to do is how do we scale this program up? Because you may have noticed on one of the prior pages, there's over 4,000 unfilled jobs in the Anaplan ecosystem right now. These are Anaplan partners and customers that are looking for certified Anaplan professionals and can't find them. And so it's a strategic initiative of Anaplan to really invest in this program. And so as an example, last year, our initial cohort size was 50. This year, we're launching a cohort of 500, and we'll be planning on doing more cohorts and training more people as the year goes along. So, we've had people that applied for our first cohort, but that was a very small cohort that we said, okay, well, now we're opening up a bigger cohort, encourage you to apply again. And so long-winded answer to say, we've been selective, but we'll be scaling up so that we can offer the program to more and more people.
Great, thank you. Question about as a student or graduate, what's the preference? If you have some background and work experience, a lot of our students already have work experience.
Yeah.
The average age is 30 at Metro State. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. Prior work experience is definitely something we look for. Now, if someone's coming out of a business program, sometimes that can be a substitute for real world work experience, at least in terms of the skills that are relevant for these sorts of jobs. But if someone has prior work experience in business or operations or a variety of different functions, and then is going back to school to learn additional skills, they would be a perfect fit for the program. The one thing I will say, we also do prioritize students who are entering the job market. So if you, for example, are a 2024 graduate, we would recommend you apply to the program next year. If you're a 2022 or 2023 graduate, you'd be a perfect fit this year.
Thank you. Do you have a sense of when that next cohort might start?
Yeah, we are finalizing the details with Anaplan over the next 2 weeks. We intend to start the program probably around July, August timeframe, and we would open the application hopefully early April.
Great.
I have a quick question. I know you talked about other programs Correlation One offers. I'm a pretty young student, so I'm not that average 30, but I'm in a data science major, and with everything being so new, myself and peers often find, it's tricky to learn these things. I guess my ultimate question is, do you have any other more entry level programs that Correlation One does, or can I check out the website to learn more about that?
Yeah, great question. So definitely check out our website. We have a number of different data science programs we run through the year as well. Similar model in that they're 100% free for students. We partner with lots of universities. For the data science program, we actually have a specific women's program that is opening the application at the end of this month. Okay. And that program is kind of specifically for people who are transitioning from academia to industry. And so the program's intention is helping with career transitions, helping understand, okay, you've learned the hard skills of data science. Now we're going to teach you how it's applied in different use cases, and then connecting with employers as well.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Yeah, I'll drop our kind of general corporate website in the chat just so folks can check us out.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question.
Sure.
So my question is, if you apply for the program, like let's say for this time frame, and you don't get in, should the candidate keep trying to apply to get in if they can't get in the first time, or do they just, be on the wait list until they just get selected?
Yeah, so we generally, we have kind of like a fast track application for people who may have applied previously, because we'll have a lot of your information already on file. But because we have started really small, we've had to initially turn away some people that we know would still be good fits for the programs. And so, for example, as we went from a cohort size of 50 to 500, right, we were able to let in people who may have applied to the first round, who just weren't able to get in because of the size of the cohort at that time. And so tactically, how it works is if you apply for any of our programs, we'll have your information on file. We'll let you know, hey, the next cohort is now applications live and is launching, and you'll kind of have like a fast track way to kind of resubmit your interest.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So Andrew, with this model, what would you say are a couple of the key challenges that you can anticipate some participants might face, or bring some of the reality into the cool program?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is just, the time commitment required is meaningful, right? And I mentioned it's live class every Saturday. It's probably 15 to 20 hours a week during the week, learning the software, learning how the software is used. And then, working with our career development team to really prepare for things like technical interviews and, just kind of navigating the job market in general. And so we've definitely had people apply that were like, okay, I'll dabble in this, and then realize it's more meaningful work than they were expecting. And so we try to be upfront that the time commitment required is meaningful, but the job opportunities are very real at the end as well.
Did you talk about the mentor part of it too, Andrew, or is that still part of it?
It is, yeah. Thanks for bringing this up. So we have a few different types of, support, I guess, through the program. So the main support structure is we have teaching assistants and instructors who are kind of like live, almost the same way as you would interact with the folks at Metro State. We have a team of career coaches that work with individuals one-on-one, and those are part of Correlation One staff as well. And they'll help you with things like developing your resume for these sorts of roles, navigating the job market, et cetera. And then lastly, we have a group of about 100 professional mentors. And these are mentors that come from our partner organizations and currently work in Anaplan. And so, it would be people on like Goldman Sachs finance transformation team that are using Anaplan to restructure how Goldman's financial modeling works internally, or folks on Johnson & Johnson's workforce planning team that are using Anaplan to forecast headcount and make those decisions for the next year. And so those professionals act as mentors to the program to help all of our fellows understand how it's actually used in practice and kind of like, just some of the nuances of working with Anaplan in a real life position.
And we have a local representative who works at Anaplan locally, who is also a mentor for the program. Mm-hmm. And so if anybody would like to connect with him, please send me an email. And if he's a wonderful guy, loves to talk about Anaplan. He loves to talk about this program. He's very devoted to the mission of this program. And he would be happy to talk with you about the experience. So just let me know with an email and I'll work to connect you. Andrew, we've got a couple other questions in the chat. I don't know if you saw that.
Yep.
Do you have UX researcher training?
We do not have UX researcher training yet. We are working to expand our portfolio of training opportunities. UX researcher is something that's on our radar, but we haven't developed the curriculum for it yet. And then the next question is, it looks like there's one around just started college with no experience. I would recommend waiting a year or two until you have kind of the relevant, educational coursework to kind of get the most out of the program.
I have a question. I'm an advisor for computer science, cybersecurity. The reason I was attracted to joining to listen to is about, I thought maybe there are some opportunities for our students, but it sounds like your preference right now is for students in business majors, operations majors. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, fundamentally, there's almost two different types of career paths that Anaplan professionals can take. One
Okay.
career path is kind of the more technical path of really understanding how the technology works and, starting as a modeler, but then, they have roles like a solution architect as an example. And that type of person might be going in and helping with an implementation of the software at a large enterprise. The other path is a little bit more of a business functional path of, okay, I start as an Anaplan professional in a corporate finance team because I want to work as a corporate finance professional, as an example. So I would say the different personas is, the first one might be someone with more of a technical background. The kind of more functional persona might be someone with more of a business background. The software itself is a no-code platform, so it's pretty accessible for people, even if they don't have programming skills. That said, if someone has backgrounds in programming or database technology or data analytics, things like that, they'll have probably a better just intuitive sense for how the software works and how it can be used. Did that answer your question?
Sorry, I muted myself and disappeared. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I have a question. Well, my name is Boone. I am self-employed, like part-time, and I'm also looking for a full-time job to be more stable. Would you consider someone for your program if that person ends up learning a great deal about Anaplan and are selling solutions to other businesses as a consultant on their side, or do you specifically want people who are willing to go work for another company that are invested in it, in using Anaplan?
Yeah, and help me understand a little bit about kind of the consulting work that you do currently.
Technology. So I'm familiar with like a lot of different technologies such as HubSpot, Salesforce, so all enterprise software solutions.
Interesting. So I would say we'd be open-minded towards it. The one thing about our model is that because we are financed by the companies that recruit out of our programs, we do have a preference towards individuals that are looking for a new job opportunity, ideally with one of the companies that is financing the program. And so that's just kind of like how the math of our model works. That said, we do have some people in the program that are not necessarily looking to switch careers. Maybe they're looking to use Anaplan in their current role, or a situation like yours might be relevant in that regard. So I would say it's not a filter, like exclusionary factor, but we do prioritize individuals who are looking for a new job opportunity.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Andrew, just kind of a little more information. Do you have a couple of examples of how Anaplan is used in an organization that this training would prepare students for? Because thinking with that little information you provide, it would help students better understand what kind of background is beneficial for participants, why it's good to have a business background.
Yeah, and I can, there's a couple sample videos I can share as a follow-on that kind of provide like the different use cases. I think they have a chart on the Anaplans website that shows all the different use cases, and it's 30 or more corporate strategy use cases that it can be used for. The main ones, corporate FP&A is definitely the main one. So financial planning and analysis. This is finance teams that are projecting financials for subsequent years. Usually those teams have to coordinate with other departments to understand, okay, what are we hearing from sales? What are we hearing from, legal, et cetera? And so having a background just in terms of how a corporate finance team operates will help someone be more effective, for example, in a role where they're using Anaplan for a corporate FP&A function. So that's kind of a most common use case, but supply chain would probably be the next most common use case. And again, that's a department that has to coordinate with lots of different groups. And so familiarity with how, a supply chain organization functions would similarly be relevant. And then the other most common use cases include workforce planning. So, you're a huge company with tens of thousands of employees. How do you plan your hiring and retention and all of those things for different geographies over the next year? And then the other one that's really common is sales performance management. And so managing a large sales team, understanding like what territories we may want to assign to different salespeople, kind of where there's lots of moving parts oftentimes in terms of, you know, the way we're defining accounts and coverage and things like that. So big picture is, you know, anytime where there might be kind of like messy Excel files going back and forth between different departments to try to plan for something, Anaplan kind of solves that really well. And having experience in the function is relevant because you can have the perspective of, oh, I know what good supply chain looks like, but now that I have this new technology, I can do it even better.
Thank you for that.
Andrew, I have another question then. This is Ping again, about, you know, I was just thinking about the students Metro State has, as well as, you know, the background you're looking at. So in a sense, you did emphasize on the business operations, the supply chain kind of a background, yet you didn't specifically say it's an academic background. So here's the thing, like for instance, my students, many of them are working and actually full-time students, full-time workers and part-time students. So in a sense, for instance, they have a lot of background in business, like students who work in Anderson Windows knows a lot about supply chain, about how it's impacting them, or students working as, you know, sales manager or something. So how do you, in your selection process, I guess, how do you assess such, you know, background?
Yeah, and so we look at both education and work experience. And so, you know, we have people in the program that don't have a business degree or don't have a analytics degree, right? But they have the relevant work experience. And so, you know, someone with that could be a good fit for the program. And we have kind of a different, we have like a scoring rubric basically that our team uses when they're grading applications and resumes. You know, a different type of profile might be someone who has work experience, but not necessarily business work experience, or, you know, maybe more of like a frontline work experience, but they've gone back to get a master's degree in business or analytics or you know, something that's going to be hyper relevant to what we know is important for Anaplan. And so that gets factored in as well, right? If someone has both, great, even better, right? So you know, there's different kind of weightings that go into our scoring algorithm, so to speak. And then lastly, we use skills assessments as part of the process to understand, okay, you know, do you understand kind of like basic business fundamentals? Do you understand basic tech fundamentals, so that we think you'll be kind of at a good starting point to join the program?
Can I follow up with one more?
Sure.
Sorry, the other people, if you have questions, I didn't want to dominate, but I do have one more question. It's about the front. When you screen, you said that you screen applicants. Do you use human to read the screening, or do you use scanning?
Yeah, so we have, you know, it's a combination of human mediated, but then we have an application and assessment process that gets kind of automatically scored on the back end. And so we have our own assessment platform that we use where, for example, someone takes the assessment and based on their answers, they get a score, right? And so it's not a human going through and grading each assessment one by one. It's a technology that does that. But ultimately it's human mediated in terms of reviewing applicants, reviewing resumes, reviewing, you know, assessment scores, things like that.
I want to ask a further question on that. When you say answering questions, so is your process of applying is like interactive kind of thing, or are you saying send in application by resume and cover letter?
The latter. So people submit an application, they answer questions about themselves, they write a short answer essay, they submit their resume, they complete our assessment. All that is done on online platform. And then we have a team of people that review the applications, advance people through the different stages in the process. But there's not a live interview component just because we're operating at, scale in the thousands and we're still kind of a small startup.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Andrew, I think it's very similar, but a specific question: graduating in December with a master's in MIS, have an internship experience.
Yeah, great fit. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
MIS would be a very relevant type of background because that person would understand just kind of like back-end technology, right? And how information systems work, which is relevant to understand how Anaplan would ultimately be utilized and deployed within an enterprise.
Great. All right. Any other questions? This is your time. A couple more minutes.
Is there a deadline for application?
So if you go to our website and share your email, we'll let you know when the next application is live. And usually the application window is open for about a month and a half. So there's not an immediate deadline that you need to be aware of. But if you share your email with us, we'll let you know kind of the application window when it launches.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. We really appreciate your time, Andrew and Juliana, for being here with us today, talk about this amazing program, and appreciate it very much. Good luck to everyone who's interested in applying. And as I mentioned, we know a Anaplan mentor if you are interested in connecting with Willie. So have a great day. Thanks for attending. And thanks, Andrew and Juliana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.